everybody, and welcome to Perspectives. It's good to have you here today, and we're not watching Washington for a change. Boy, we can relax, and we don't have to worry about any clown cars. My first guest today is Reggie Ivey, Executive Director of Northside Neighbors, and I want to know what that is.
Well, Northside Neighbors is the nonprofit organization that is an LLC under the Tulsa Community Foundation. And our focus is working with North Tulsa residents to bring development to the 36th Street corridor. And we're focused in 4 pillars: economic development, mixed income housing, community well-being, and then lastly, cradle to career.
There are going to be 2 areas of concern that I see right off the top. First of all, you're going to have a lot of folks in South Tulsa who will fail to realize the historical significance of what North Tulsa had at one time before the riot. Second, with those same folks, you're going to see eyes glaze over. Mm-hmm. How do you penetrate both areas?
Well, I think it's important to tell the truth of the community and the history. And unfortunately, there are some that would like to bury the history. But North Tulsa has a very, very rich history, even past the 1921 race massacre or Black Wall Street. So when I was growing up in that community in the 70s, the community pretty much had all of the resources that they needed in order for a family to be successful. Mm-hmm. So there were 6 grocery stores. Dillard's department store was on 36th Street. There was a Frug's department store. There were shoe stores. There was a drive-in movie theater. And so over the last 40 years, all of those things have disappeared from North Tulsa. And the aim of Northside Neighbors is to bring that vibrancy back to the North Tulsa community.
Well, you certainly picked out a lot of work to accomplish. And I really hope you pull it off. For them who were involved, or those who were involved, to achieve such phenomenal success when they did in the period of this country is virtually unheard of.
Right.
Black Wall Street? Yeah, man. They were on the big board in New York.
Well, it was amazing because in the latter 1800s is when 2 black men began to buy land near the Greenwood area that exists right now, and they bought a fairly large plot of land. But that was the area where black entrepreneurs could come and they could own their own businesses, but there was enough residential households in order to patronize those businesses so they could sustain as a community. So they did not have to go outside of their community at all in order to get what they needed. And so that happened from the late 1800s until 1921. And unfortunately, in 1921 is when we had the race massacre happen, and all of that community pretty much burned down.
We still have, there's still vibration, there's still ghosts, if you will, of success walking the sidewalks in North Tulsa. You don't always hear them, you don't always see them, but they're there.
Right.
The impact on music, for example.
Yes.
The the St. Louis and Kansas City sound came from North Tulsa.
Right. Right.
It was also a major dropping off point for the Underground Railroad.
Right.
And I mean, you can just sit here and name the things that happened in North Tulsa. When Duke Ellington or Count Basie or Harry James even played South Tulsa one night, the next night they'd play North Tulsa. The 2 towns were just so divided back then.
Right, right.
Even before the shooting started.
Right, right. And there was a Big Ten ballroom that was on Apache.
I've heard about
that. That is where a lot of the performers actually came and they performed to black audiences. Unfortunately, for a number of years, the Big Ten ballroom was not operational at all. But now it is. And so we're really excited to bring back various artists, and not only black artists, but artists that want to perform for North Tulsa residents and others. And so really excited that the Big Ten Ballroom is now operational again.
You know, you're fortunate to live in an area where you live because you've got one foot rooted in the history of it, another foot rooted in the future. What a dance you're going to do, man.
Well, it's been a benefit serving in this role in that I know the history of the community and I also lived it, and I can imagine what the future could possibly be. And so now what we're trying to do is to engage residents so that they can see what could possibly happen within their own community if they just come together and come up with a real viable plan. Now through Northside Neighbors, we have an opportunity to do that.
There's going to have to be some physical changes made too, am I right?
Yes. One of the things that is happening right now is that a lot of the land is being cleared off for development. So there's a Peoria Mohawk Business Park there with a manufacturing company that operates there right now. But there's also space for at least 2 or 3 additional companies coming to that area, and this is at 36th Street in Peoria. There's also a major project going on regarding housing. So there was a public housing complex called Comanche there for over 50 years. It was torn down 2 years ago, and now we're building mixed income housing on that plot of land.
What do you see as the biggest obstacle?
Education, I think, is the biggest obstacle, in that we want to link early learning with high quality elementary, middle, and high schools. And what we're seeing is that we have a fragmented system. So you have all of these representations of educational offerings in the community, but they're not connected. So how do we connect those from early learning through elementary to graduating from high school to ultimately career where people are making a living wage? So that is probably the biggest obstacle that I see.
Well, certainly you got a tiger by the tail, and we got about a minute and a half left. I'd be interested in knowing where you're going to start. I know some lands have been cleared. I know there are obstacles being moved. But how do you bring people together and say, look, this is safe, this is functional, and this is history, and you can walk through it?
Well, the first thing that we have to do is really engage residents, because we are not going to be successful until the residents believe that the work we're doing is going to benefit them and ultimately benefit generations to come. So you have to engage residents in an intense way over a period of time so they have buy-in to what we're going to do.
How do you do that?
Well, we're going to have a series of community engagement meetings. We're going to go to neighborhood associations. We're going to go to churches. We're going to really talk about this model that we want to bring to North Tulsa. But we don't want to come with our own perceived ideas. We really want the community to feed us ideas as it relates to those 4 pillars that I mentioned at the top of the interview.
And there may be solutions just waiting.
Right.
What a novel idea. Hey, listen, first, I want to thank you for coming in. Second,
Thank you.
I want to stay in touch. Let's you and I
Absolutely.
talk more down the road. In fact, 6 months from now, would you come back?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that. Thank you for taking time to come in. I know your schedule is just terrible.
Thank you.
Shula at a premium. But keep us on your list of folks to alert when things develop and start, because it's going to happen.
Thank you. I sure will.
Thank you, my friend. Right. We'll talk more down the road. Short break. We'll be back. Have a little more right after this. We're back, and you may not be aware of it, especially if you're new to Oklahoma. But did you know that Oklahoma has her own submarine? Well, we do, and it's the Batfish. And let me tell you what she did back during the war. World War II, the Batfish sank 3 enemy subs, 11 other enemy vessels. As a result of their record, the Batfish and her crew, highly decorated, 9 battle stars, 1 Navy Cross, 4 Silver Stars, 10 Bronze Stars, and a Presidential Unit Citation. Well, as it turns out, we are going to be talking more about the Batfish because, well, how did we get her and where we go from here is next on the agenda. And James Gulley is he is the War Memorial Park Authority Chairman in Muskogee, and he's here now to talk about the Batfish. First of all, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Well, thank you so much. Thank
How
you.
did we get the batfish?
How did we get the batfish? Well, when we built the waterway all the way from New Orleans up the Mississippi across the Arkansas River, there was some submariners who realized that there was some submarines the Navy is going to decommission in New Orleans. So they got permission to go from the U.S. Navy, and they found the USS Batfish 310. So the Navy agreed that we could have it. So with the new waterway, they pulled it up by our tugboat all the way up to Muskogee. They built a canal from the Arkansas about 100 yards, brought it in. They dug out a pit for that. Then the Corps helped flood it. So then they pulled it on with a couple of tractors. And then once they did that, they sealed off the canal, pumped the water out, and they moored the boat into this pit. So that's how we got it from the U.S. Navy.
No easy task.
No easy task.
And there's a lot of upkeep.
There's a lot of upkeep to it because it's just an older batfish and things are deteriorating or rust and just the wear and tear of the weather and that sort of stuff.
You know, my wife and I toured the batfish some years ago.
Very good.
And it was quite an experience to be on board. And I maintained with her, I said, you know, there are ghosts walking this vessel. And if you get quiet enough, you can probably hear them. And you can hear the sounds of combat because she did see a lot of action.
Yes, she did. She did 7 tours, and on their 6th outing, most of the Japanese fleet had already been pretty much destroyed, so they were looking for submarines, and they found 3 submarines within 76 hours and sunk 3 of them.
No kidding.
And that's a record for the U.S. Navy.
And the batfish holds the record.
And the batfish has the record. We think there was another one that they sunk, a German one, but they don't have any proof of that one.
All right, now there are plans in the works.
Yes.
For the batfish. You're going to move her again.
We're going to have to move her again. When we had the 2019 500-year flood, the batfish, the water came over the bank, and we floated the batfish up, and it started floating downriver.
Oh, great.
And so because it was in a pit, was on a mound on the side of our property, but now she's sitting on a ledge of the property, and she's tilting 5 degrees. Well, the Port Muskogee has done an excellent job of getting funding to build a berm around their industrial park, which includes the city water plant, Muskogee City Water Plant. So now once we've done that, then we have no way of getting the people to the boat and that sort of stuff because you can't get on it because of the lean to it. So we're going to lift her up and we're going to put her on a trailer, and we're going to take her and then put her on a barge to get her about 2 miles south and take it to Port Muskogee's Three Forks Harbor.
She'll be safe from there on out.
She'll be safe from there on out.
What are the hours on it right now? Well, I guess you are open right now.
Well, what people need to remember that we also have a War Memorial Museum, and we have artifacts that go before the Civil War, all the way up through the recent conflicts that we've had. So people forget we're the War Memorial Museum featuring the USS Batfish.
So, we got a lot of stuff, but we also got a sub out back.
Yes, and everybody gets excited. It's amazing when we start visiting and as we start this process of getting the funds to move the boat, how many people have memories like yourself that have been on the boat. It really doesn't do, you can read it on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, but when you actually go inside that boat and see what these 60 men and plus their officers, what the conditions they lived in for 75 days. I mean, I can't imagine sharing my bed with another sailor, but that's how they worked. You
rotated in shifts.
Rotated in the shifts, so.
Good Lord, and they were just boys.
Well, they were boys, but they were really specialists. They just didn't pick anybody off the street to be submariners.
No, they were specialists.
They were specialists, yes.
Hard times on everybody, both in combat and folks back home.
Oh.
What comes next? I think we have some artist renderings, don't we?
Yeah, you should have some artist renderings. What we're doing now is we're doing a public relations campaign to start raising funds. And really what we need the citizens of Oklahoma to do is to reach out to their state and federal legislatures to tell them how important the batfish is to our history and for Oklahoma to being a destination, Before the 2019 flood, we were probably having 50,000 visitors a year, and now we're down to less than 5. And we anticipate when we move it back down, the visibility and access will be even better. And so we anticipate that we'll have more than 50,000 visitors.
Easily.
Easily, yes, sir.
So it'll generate a lot of revenue too.
It'll generate a lot of revenue, but also we give it a lot of history, and we really pay honor to our veterans. The people who served in the armed forces, the men and women, you know, I'm blessed that I have my grandchildren I get to see on a regular basis, but when you're in the military, you can not see your family for months and weeks and years at a time.
Yeah, really.
They really make a big sacrifice for us, and we need to make sure that we hold on to these kind of monuments to dedicate to our to those veterans. At the
Has
end of the
anybody
day,
written a history of the Batfish?
there
book?
are some histories on it. Yes.
Where could I find a copy?
If you come to the museum, we have a brochure that gives an account for all 7 tours that they did. Who were the captain and the boat, and what they saw and what they didn't see. They even rescued some air pilots when they were down in the Pacific too.
No joke.
No joke.
First to fight above the water, then they're on board to fight below the water.
Right. Yep.
Good Lord.
It was close quarters, you know, smelly and all that. If the smells are still there.
I'll bet.
And you mentioned that there's ghosts on it. Well, before the floods, we were having almost every weekend we're booked with sleepovers with the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and other civic organizations. And Halloween is really spooky when you spend the night on the Batfish, yes.
How so?
Well, it's like you say, all of a sudden now the lights go down and it's dark, and the next thing that boat is, it kind of changes the temperatures from hot to cold and starts getting all those creeks in it. I'm sure there's some storytellers in those troop
I'll bet
leaders.
there were a lot of kids that on those nights especially.
Yes.
That
absolutely.
had stories to tell later.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, thanks for coming by.
Oh, you bet. Thank you for having us, quite frankly.
Give us a promise that you'll come back when you've got everything in place.
We are excited about that. We want to be able to video it once we decide to get everything in place to start lifting that boat up and putting it on a truck and shipping it down. We'd love to have some people take some video of that.
I'd love to do it. I'd love to be a part of it. Just give us a call and we'll head that way.
Trust me, we have your number.
You're a good man. I don't care what anybody says.
Be careful about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back after this. We're back. Wendy Jason and Trey Livingston are with JustArts and Sunset Club Records. Welcome, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. What are you guys all about?
I'll start.
Yeah.
So I'm Wendy, and I run a new gallery in town called JustArts in Tulsa. And I, for many years, have been working with artists who are incarcerated. So JustArts is a space that's dedicated to their work. So
You say incarcerated?
Incarcerated, yes, in prison. So we show and sell their work. We'll be hosting several events that seek to connect our community members here with the artists who are incarcerated, provide like loops of feedback and reflection so that the artists have a sense of how their work is impacting people. And as I said, this is work that I've done for a really long time, but just not in this. This is a new context for me. I've never been a gallery owner.
Well, surely you know better than anyone else that there are folk who are currently popular today who have a prison record.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
I know.
folk out there don't realize that.
Sure, sure.
What an opportunity you've got.
It's a wonderful opportunity. I get to meet really incredible people who are more, you know, more driven than most folks out here that I know, and more committed to their creative practice. And, you know, but there are so many barriers that they face in trying to create and in trying to get the work that they do create outside.
Are you in a position to record them?
To record? Yeah, I can sometimes. So I've done like events where artists will call in and we sometimes have recorded those, or I've done recorded interviews.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, you've been with us before.
Yes,
It's been a while,
it has.
and you're still alive.
I'm still here.
What's your side of the story?
Well, my side of the story is that I was actually, one of the artists that worked with Wendy's organization for years while I was incarcerated. So pretty much everything I do, whether it's my artwork or advocacy, is so tied directly to everything that she's doing too. I mean,
Into that experience.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting because so now we have our different businesses under one roof. So Trey, prior to a few weeks ago, was running a screen printing shop and a little storefront. And I was just kind of still imagining how I might pursue new avenues of opportunity for the artists that I work most closely with. And then we stumbled upon this incredible little space on Studio Row in Tulsa that was available for rent, and it was too perfect to walk away from. So we kind of just took a leap and said, all right, we're gonna take over this space, bring Trey's artwork and music that he sells out of his shop into it, give me the opportunity to create this gallery. And it's just something that I've wanted to do for years, was create a space where the artists that I'm close with know it's in a way it's theirs, like they can't be out here, but their art can live and have an impact out here. And I wanted to be able to create something that was completely dedicated to that really, really centered them, celebrated their work, their dedication. So it's really exciting. And I think what's super cool about it that we hadn't fully dawned on us until we got everything unloaded in there and set up, was that, really every piece of art under the roof of this space was created inside of a prison. And when you walk in the door, there's nothing that would tell you that. You would just think you're surrounded by, beautiful, amazing art.
Art is art.
Art is art, and artists are artists.
We got about a minute and a half. I want to know, I've got to ask this question. Have you had any surprises?
In what context?
In the context of working with an inmate who's still behind bars and says, I can do this, and then blows you away with it.
Oh, every day. Every day, I'm blown away. Trey can tell you I was opening a box full of artwork from an artist who's on death row in Texas. His name is Obi Weathers. And I'd seen many pictures of his work. I had, exhibited his work once before and interacted with it kind of briefly. But being in this space, opening this box and pulling out what Obi creates, which is incredibly powerful mixed media work that he pours his heart and soul into, and thinking about the context where, from which it was coming. This is a man who's been on death row, for decades. I just sat there and cried because his work is so profound, but it's also so deeply personal, and it is the one piece of him that can be free out here and be a legacy.
So his art will live.
His art will live.
Amazing story. Well, I certainly hope, and I'll say the same thing with you present that I said to your cohort there before. Please keep us posted. Let us know how this goes, because I personally think, and for what it's worth, this is not only a worthwhile endeavor, it's one that should have been done a long time ago.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So thank you for
Thanks,
what
Sam.
you're doing.
Absolutely.
You never know. We might find a Picasso in there.
Oh, we have.
We're out of time. Thank you both, kids. Appreciate you. And we're going to just tell you goodbye and head on out of here, waddle on out to the car. But thanks for being a part of it, and we'll see you back here next time.